Hello, I'm Dr. Sharon Ann Holgate, the author of Communicating Science Clearly, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about how I came to write the book and what's in it. So, in a way, it was quite a strange set of circumstances that led me to write this book, because it was really when I was doing my continuing professional development, as a lot of us do, and I was having to write down, all the things I'd done in the year. And it suddenly struck me that I was coming up to my 25th anniversary in this job, which honestly I could hardly believe. It doesn't seem anywhere near that length of time. But this kind of got me really reflecting on how much I'd learned from colleagues and from various people who were kind enough to mentor me at all sorts of stages in my career, but particularly when I was first starting out. And then I also began to think a bit about the number of people who had written to me for advice over the years on science communication. Coupling that in with the fact that since 2019 I've been a guest educator on a module at King's College London for physics students, which was again about science communication. And I just kind of thought to myself, there's so many tips and skills that I've been helped with by others, or I've amassed myself over the years, and it just kind of seemed like the right time to pass this on to other people, because I genuinely couldn't have done this career myself without all the help that my various mentors and various colleagues have given me. So I thought, for people who may not be lucky enough to have that sort of advice, then hopefully this book can provide it for them. So one of the things that I wanted to do with the book is not just provide advice from myself. So I've spoken with quite a few friends and colleagues who've got absolute wealth of experience of communicating in various different scenarios. Some of them are scientists, some of them are professional communicators. For instance, I've spoken to some friends in the entertainment profession who've got really interesting insights into how to deal with live audiences, particularly when things go a bit wrong. I've also spoken to some fellow writers. I've spoken to various scientists who've had to give talks all around the world. I've also talked to one of my radio producers, and all of these interviews I've done for the book are just to give you, the reader, different perspectives on things. So you're not just taking my word for it, but you've got all this wealth of experience from all these various experts. I've arranged the book in such a way that you can just dip in and out of it really quickly if you need to. So, for instance, if you suddenly get asked to do a radio interview and you want to read just about that, then it's perfectly possible to just go straight to that chapter and get some advice on that. However, you can, if you want to, follow the book right from the start and go through in a sequential order. So that way you can really build up a nice feel for all sorts of different types of science communication. So I've tried to cover as many different science communication scenarios as I can. So I start the book with some of the more general chapters that talk about things like tailoring your content to a specific audience, and also how to keep ideas simple and on message. There's also a chapter about personal presentation, which actually is really important so that people are focusing on what you're talking about. And then the second half of the book looks at particular communication scenarios. So for instance, I've got a chapter on writing articles for newspapers and magazines, and also on writing books. And then there's another on radio and TV interviews. But I'm aware that a lot of people may never do a media interview. So the book also covers scenarios like talking to your boss and talking to colleagues, and also things like job interviews. Of course, the internet is a huge part of all our lives now, and so I've included a chapter on best practice for social media posting. The chapter also covers writing content for websites, which might be for your own blog, or maybe things that you need to put up about your research for your department or for the company you work for. Finally, I've added a chapter all about things that can go wrong. I've called it troubleshooting, and it looks at just various different scenarios that could occur, that if we plan in advance for them, we can avoid them being a complete catastrophe. Because we've all been there, haven't we, with something going horrendously wrong just before we're due to give that important presentation at a conference or whatever. So I've not shied away from looking at some of those sort of scenarios. I've also got a downloadable PDF of further reading, which will be available on the publisher's website. So I decided to do this instead of writing it in a traditional way in the back of the book, just because if I then notice anything in the coming months or years, I can then add it into the list so you've got that information straight away. I've also been filming some videos with various bits of advice and tips on how to use technologies of various sorts for communication purposes. So again, those I will be adding to them and updating them from time to time. So do check out the publisher's YouTube channel and you'll find the videos there. I'm really hoping that this book can just help as many people as possible, and honestly it doesn't matter whether you're just starting out as a student or whether you've been in academia or industry for 40 years. You know, all of us, myself included, end up with different communication challenges all the time, and the whole point of the book is to just have something there as a little reference that you can refer back to at any stage, and hopefully it will just give you a little bit of a guide, a little bit of a helping hand to assist you with any of the science communication challenges that you may find yourself faced with.